ॐ विश्वं दर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोध समये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतम्
Yes, namaste.
नायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया
Yeah, he finished the last one a little late, so he started this one just now, so it should be working.
मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्री
Let me go there also to clarify.
श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Verse number 8. ज्ञान विज्ञान तृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रियः युक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः. So in the first class we have discussed that one who wants to nididhyasanam, to make oneself free from the orientation that I am the body, mind, sense complex, well, he requires to have a samatva, one of the general discipline and equanimity towards various situations that we have seen. So situations in terms of a heat and cold, external situation. So sukha dukkham, well, unfavorable situation, tatha mana apamana yoga, well, and or a honor, dishonor, etc. He definitely should have a samatva, and gnani will become free from all this, from these pairs of these opposites naturally because of the knowledge. But who wants to abide in knowledge, well, then he needs as external discipline this samatva. Now, so with regard to the situations we have discussed samatva, right? So in this verse number 7. Now in verse number 8, towards various objects, one should have that equanimity of the mind. So that is been talked about in verse number 8. What does it say here? That this disciplined person, well, who has this samatvam, who is ready to put self-effort, who has a self-confidence, and who has a self-mastery, means basically whose instruments, well, which has been given by the Lord as a gift, are refined, and there is an integration. Well, such a person, disciplined person, well, he goes through, Bhagavan says, 2 stages of self-knowledge. First stage is called jnanam, and the second stage is called vijnanam. And these 2 words, jnanam and vijnanam, basically Bhagavan has used earlier also. In 3rd chapter, Bhagavan said at one place, jnana vijnana nashanam. while talking about kama and krodha, etc., Bhagavan has used this kama and krodha, the shatrus, basically these enemies, destroys. So jnanam and vijnanam, etc. So these words, Bhagavan, jnanam and vijnanam, these words Bhagavan has used earlier also in chapter 3. And according to context, we will have to take the meaning. This jnanam, vijnanam have got different meaning according to different context. Now here, let us take first a simpler meaning. And that is, I am this body, mind, sense complex. And through Shastra, I will know now that I have a consciousness also. It is jnana. So consciousness is also taken as a part of this body, mind, sense complex. We take ourselves to be the physical body. But I have a consciousness also. Through Shastra, only you know this, which is consciousness, which is an independent principle, which pervades and illumines the body, that I have this consciousness. This is called jnana. We take it this way. And what is vijnanam? Vijnanam, is instead of saying I am the body, mind, sense complex with consciousness, or I have a consciousness, instead I change it. I already talked in the first class that I am consciousness principle. Jnanam means I am the body, mind, sense complex, and I'm having a consciousness which illumines the body, which pervades the body, etc. Vijnanam means I am not the body, mind, sense complex. I am consciousness with incidental body, mind, sense complex. It's a temporary instrument for a vyavahara, like the spectacles. So basically, spectacles have these two glasses. When I put on, I'm able to see and transact with the world. When I remove the spectacles, I do not transact, but I still continue to exist. Same way, our body, mind, sense complex, etc., are two glasses, let us say. So subtle body and gross body, let us say that way, and they are like two spectacles. Two glasses of a spectacle. And when I use this body, mind, sense complex in a waking state, I have the waking state experience, or with just a subtle body, I have a dream state experience. And when the body and mind are basically relaxed and dissolved, I do not have a waking state and dream state. So I do not have any transaction. But even without transaction, I continue to exist. And therefore, body and mind are just instruments. I should not claim them that I am body, mind, sense complex. They are instruments for the transaction in the world. They are instruments for transacting in the dream world, waking world, or a dream world. They are instruments. I am not that. I am just consciousness. This is Vijnana. So I am body, mind, sense complex, and I'm having a consciousness which pervades this body, etc. That is Jnana. But Vijnana means I am consciousness, understanding thoroughly with the analysis of three states, etc. You understand, you know that I am not body, mind, sense complex, but I am consciousness with these instruments which are provided to me to transact in the world, in the waking world or in dream world. So this change of an identification from body, mind, sense complex to consciousness, changing the attention from body, mind, sense complex to consciousness, ultimately is Vijnanam. And when Bhagavan says Jnana Vijnana Trupta, so when such a shift takes place, when I shift the I from identification with the body to the Atma, then the sense of limitation goes away. That's a trupti. And so, so this is how is I have a sense of a dissatisfaction because I have a sense of limitation. That sense of limitation is born of an identification with the body, mind, sense complex, basically. Now that goes away. So Jnana Vijnana Trupta. Atma means Antakaranam. We will see that. So people generally, of course, ask, why should I shift my identification from body, mind, sense complex to this consciousness? I'm happy to claim I am the body. Why should I know this Atma, basically? So, because it's a struggle because this orientation is so natural. To claim I am body, mind, sense complex is so natural, effortless. Now we say that, basically you are consciousness. And therefore, Be alert and, basically claim yourself to be just consciousness. Don't claim yourself to be body, mind, sense complex. And that requires a lot of effort, it looks. And therefore, people may ask, this is just a hypothetical question. So basically, why should I develop this new identification? Why all this headache, basically? Why can't I take myself as body? For that, well, answer in Vedanta is that if you are comfortable with this body, mind, with body identification, etc., wish you all the best. Well, because, we are not interested in changing your identification, but the problem is, so long as I'm identified with this body, well, there is a fear. Three types of fear are born. Fear of a mortality, definitely, because body is mortal, and you claim body as yourself, and therefore you say you are mortal, and that such a notion creates a fear in. And the second thing is a fear of old age, because body is getting old, passing through various states, right? Body is getting old, and so you say I am old. That also creating fear in. Third thing is body is subject to diseases, so that is a third fear. So you say I am subject to diseases, and it creates fear in you. So fear of a death, fear of a old age, fear of a disease, etc. And this fear, so, and this fear alone is a constant companion throughout the life. Other companions come and go, and they may join you in your life later also, but this companion remains throughout. Fear. And therefore, basically, well, we are afraid of this death, old age, and disease, etc. And in fact, this is called samsara. Samsara means a fear of old age, fear of death, fear of disease. And that has born due to identifying yourself with the body, mind, sense complex. And therefore, well, and it happens so that some people say, well, that I am not afraid of a death. Okay. But then there is another fear of old age. Well, some people say, no, I am not afraid of even old age also. Then you say the fear of disease, that will be there. One or other fear will be there. So all this fear together is called samsara. And if you are comfortable with all these fears, well, you do not require Vedanta. But I'm sure no one will say I'm comfortable with the fear. So, if you say, well, that you are getting affected by these fears, well, better handle this problem. And unfortunately, no medicine which can cure all the disease. There is no medicine which can keep yourself away from old age, etc. In fact, there is no medicine which is a cure for all diseases also in general. In fact, what happens is, if you take a medicine for a particular disease, in a process, you develop another disease. Sometimes you take a medicine for a stomach pain and you get a headache. And so stomach pain may go away, but it has, it is replaced by another thing that it is giving you a headache. Or sometimes it happens worse. First thing is, well, you have taken a tablet for a stomach ache. And in stomach ache continues, and headache also now additionally comes. I mean, all this. So basically, there is no medicine for all diseases, and therefore there is no medicine for old age. And basically, so for this basic problem, there is no remedy as such. And so if you are ready to face this problem, well, it is fine. But otherwise, if you want to get rid of this fear of all the three types of fears, well, come to Vedanta and discover that you are something basically free from this decaying body, old age, free from any disease, and free from any mortality, etc. You are Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Svabhavaha. Basically, you are just an existence, and which is consciousness, which is all pervading. The sense of limitation in terms of time, etc., also goes away. And therefore, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma, by Jnanam, and this Vijnana is with a clarity, and claiming the consciousness as oneself, rather than claiming embodiments and complex, well, you gain a fulfillment in your life, become free free from samsara, free from fear, free from the sense of limitation. In fact, he becomes free, totally free from any kind of evil, any kind of evil. And all evil, basically physical body it has come, its cause is prarabdha. So prarabdha is playing its role, that's it. But he's free from all psychological issues, free from that. That's what we saw also. Anyway, so jnana vijnana truptatma. And then Bhagavan says, kutastaha vijitendriya, who will be able to get this knowledge. Well, he's a vijitendriya because jitatma, Bhagavan has used the word jitatma earlier. Now he says vijitendriya, who has mastered himself. And mastered means, I have told you, mastered this body, mind, sense complex. And mastered here means the instruments he is able to direct in a proper way. That much they are friendly to himself. He has a self-mastery, vijitendriya. And then, so when whose mind is fulfilled with this wisdom, jnana vijnana taptatma, and he's, because of the self-mastery, he has gained this knowledge. And because of that, what? Kutastaha means he is unshaken by any event that happens in his life. This is another problem. We can never predict our future, Bhagavan has basically covered our eyes as though, covered our mind, that we do not know what happens tomorrow, what happens today also, what happens next moment, we do not know. Future is totally unpredictable. And there are certain things which are predictable, but not controllable. So we have seen that also. Sometimes you are able to predict, but you cannot control. Like this tornado, etc. I should not remind you, but I'm saying you. So future is totally, it's totally unpredictable or uncontrollable. And therefore, there is a constant anxiety, because any event can come as a shock in your life, because we do not know. When you do not know and a situation arises, you feel a shock. And then, well, so what is the armor against this situation? Unpredictable and uncontrollable situation. Bhagavan says this knowledge alone is this kavacham, armor. So a wise person is not shocked by any event possible. Kutastaha, he's like a rock of Gibraltar. So strong. That is why they say in Indian tradition, in that Upanayanam, a boy basically, when he's he's initiated, and now he has to go to Gurukulam, unpredictable. What kind of a situation is there? What is the nature of a teacher, and what is the nature of different other students? Well, he just doesn't know. He's going to be into a situation in a future which is totally unpredictable, and if it is a little bit of a matter of prediction, still uncontrollable. So such a boy who is initiated, for that boy in that ritual itself, there is a ashmarohan. He has to stepping over the stone. So they keep a rock or a stone, and the mantra is chanted, and the boy has to put his feet on that rock. Similarly, during wedding also, the girl has to step on the rock. And during that time, when some mantra is chanted, well, the meaning of the mantra is that either in case of that boy who is initiated, well, that, oh boy, or this, in case of a marriage, let us say to that girl, this mantra addresses that, oh boy or oh girl, well, you please step on this stone. For what? Basically, because may your mind be so strong enough to welcome all kinds of situations in a life. Because the girl also, like the boy who goes to Gurukulam, he doesn't know what kind of environment is there. Same way for a girl also, especially in arranged marriages. What kind of a nature of a husband and other people who are in the home, what kind of atmosphere is there, it is totally unknown for that girl. Anyway, so for that, well, there is a ritual in a marriage for that girl, or ritual for that boy who is getting initiated. And so basically, this to make them prepare for the future unpredictable or uncontrollable situations. Ashmara, because Ashma, that a stone, like a stone is unshaken, basically. And same way, this also, they are preparing his mind through ritual. So Bhagavan says, well, of course, here, in case of that boy or that girl in a marriage, etc., well, that is, they have to prepare through the ritual, the mind. But here, for a wise person, no experience is a traumatic or a shocking experience. He's unshaken. That's how word Bhagavan has used the word kutastha. Naturally, it may happen. What he may say, if it is a very, a situation occurs, or somebody gives some news which is really shocking, he may say what, but then in his mind, not outside, in his mind he says, so what? Ultimately, everything is mithya. So nothing really happens anyway. So such a person, who is a kutastha, is called yuktaha iti uchyate. He is called a yogi. In a real sense, is a yogi. So who has got this kind of a wisdom. Okay. And as a result of this wisdom, what type of mind he enjoys? Sama yogi samaloshtashma kanchanaha. So this is what I was saying. He's a samaha towards all different objects now. In verse number 7, Bhagavan said, samaha bhavati, towards shita, ushna, sukha, dukkha, mana, apmana. That is various situations. He is equal to in all these situations. Now here he says he enjoys this equanimity towards various objects. We'll see that what is this equanimity, etc. So there samaha, in verse number 7 we said he is unaffected. If you remember, samaha bhavati means he is unaffected by heat and cold. He is unaffected by favorable and unfavorable situation. He is unaffected by honor and dishonor, etc. Now here samaha also, samaloshtashma kanchana. Here samaha means what? We'll see that. So according to context, we'll have to see the meaning. Equanimity means what is equanimity, etc. So according to the context, we have to interpret word samaha. Anyway, so samaloshtashma kanchana, loshtaha. Loshta means a clod of earth, basically. Mud, we can say. Which has not much value, or almost valueless. And then ashman, there is a one word ashman, nakarantaha, pullinga, ashman shabda. The prathama vibhakti ekvachanam is ashmano, ashmana. Anyway, so the other is he becomes a samaha, equanimous towards ashma, means a stone, which has some value, because we build a house, etc. Anyway, the third one is a kanchana, gold, which has a more value, of course, compared to the other two. So toward all these things, at least one with the least value, one with the little more intermediate, or one with the most value. All this wise man has got samatvam. He has got the same attitude. So internal condition, samaha here, I'm now trying to unfold. Samaha means the internal condition is same. Treatment towards these three objects is not same. And so what do you mean by the samatvam? Does it mean that he sees all of them in a same way? I mean, he is not able to recognize the difference between a gold and a clod of earth with the eyes. He's not able to recognize that difference. No, then there is a problem. Then it's a issue of some eye problem is there. It's not like that. His internal condition is, what is that? He's free from raga dvesha towards all the three. There is no attachment towards any one of them, or there is no aversion towards any of them. Especially attachment towards a gold, and aversion towards a clod of earth or a stone, etc. Well, he's free from that. So means he doesn't have any value for anything? No, that's also not correct. He knows the value of every object, and he uses them appropriately also. Everything in the creation is useful. That's what we say. If thing which is created is not useful, then we will not accept it as a creation. Well, it is because we say the creator has created and he has all knowledge how to create and what is the use and everything. He's a sarvagnya, etc. Therefore, everything has its value, but that's the objective value. over and above, we superimpose an extra value. And that extra value basically is called raga dvesha. So attachment is basically towards an object which is going to improve my status. Because the object or a person here, of course, we are talking about object. So that particular objects, if I equate in my mind that this object and it is a source of happiness, source of security, source of peace, then definitely there is an attachment towards it. So that kind of looking upon in any object which has a value, objective value, over and above you superimpose upon a given object, looking upon it as a source of security, happiness, or peace, then you develop a attachment. So this person is free from that, definitely. So anything in presence of which you feel that your status is improved, you should understand that you have an attachment towards that. And any object in presence of which you feel that basically, your status is decreased, etc., well, you should understand there is a aversion for that. So basically, so he's interconditioned towards all the three types of objects: object of a high value, object of a least value, etc. Well, internal condition is same, means he's free from raga dvesha towards them. Means he does not look upon those objects as a source of security, happiness, or peace, basically. But his treatment externally towards this object is never the same. Is never the same. So Jnani is free from that, because a Jnani knows he is full. He is not the source of Jnani. This thing is clear in his mind. The source of happiness is me. I is the source of happiness. I is a source of security. I is a source of peace. By nature I'm peace. But therefore, externally, whatever objects are there, he does not look upon them as a source of this thing. Therefore, he doesn't have either attachment or aversion towards them. And thereby, we say he is internal condition towards these different objects. Yeah, this is just an example. Towards all objects, towards any anatma, treatment will not be same, because the value of one thing is different. I mean, the usage, appropriate usage, I mean, the use of this thing is one kind of thing. The use of other thing is a different type of. So basically, usages are different naturally, and that goes with the name and form, especially form. And therefore, but for fulfillment, he does not look upon them. Therefore, samaloshtaashma kanchana. Well, he knows that his purnatma or fullness does not come from an external object. And because, I mean, he is not fulfilled because of the presence of an object or absence of an object, etc. And it could be a money, it could be a status, it could be a married life, it could be a wife, children, etc. Or parents, or anything. I am full because my nature is fullness. That is what the Nidhyasanam ultimately gives you. So, well, you take yourself to be a limited being because of the taking this body, mind, sense complex as yourself. That's an orientation. Through Nidhyasanam, he has become free from the orientation. Please understand this. Shravanam Mananam has given this knowledge, clear knowledge. I am consciousness and I'm not body, mind, sense complex. But the orientation continues. Therefore, he has to become free from the orientation and claiming consciousness as oneself, not any other thing. Thereby, there is no sense of limitation. So he knows he is all pervading consciousness, is fullness. That alone, this limitlessness, consciousness alone manifests as fullness in a moment of joy. And he understands, well, this consciousness is free from the time, basically. Body, mind, sense complex is within time. It is born, it is subject to death, it is subject to diseases, it is subject to old age, everything. I am free from the effect of time. Consciousness even pervades time, in the truth of the time. So that is clear in his mind. Thereby, he becomes equal. Internal condition is same, no raga dvesha towards any objects outside. That is what Bhagavan also said while discussing, in a Sthita Prajna section. Bhagavan was describing the characteristic of a wise person. And you know, there it is said, Apuryamanam Achala Pratishtham Samudramapa Pravishanti Sarvam, etc. So, like he is like an ocean. Basically, he knows, like in ocean, various rivers bring varieties, I mean, a lot of water. But ocean does not get overwhelmed. A lot of water gets evaporated in summer also. Ocean does not feel loss. And therefore, same way here also, any objects value to prarabdha comes in his life or something goes away from his life, he will not lose that he's fullness. Anyway, so this is what the meaning is. Now let us see a little bit of bhashyam, the meaning of verse number 8. And I do remember that we have left on page 176 in Gita Press, in the from the first line itself, where Bhashyakara introduced verse number 6. What does he say there? Atma eva bandhuhu, Atma eva ripuhu, Atmanaha iti uktam. Tatra kim lakshana Atmanaha bandhuhu, kim lakshanaha va Atmanaha ripuhu iti uchyate. So it has been said, because uddharet atmana atmanam na atmanam avasadayet, atma eva hi atmanaha bandhuhu, atma eva hi atmanaha ripuhu, etc. Atma means about body mind sense complex. Well, body mind sense complex is a friend of itself, himself, herself. This body mind sense complex is an enemy of himself, herself. Well, how can one and the same thing basically be a friend and enemy? And well, so that is then, so here it says that that's the point. That's a doubt raised by Bhashyakara here. Atma eva atmanah bandhuhu, Atma eva atmanah ripu iti uktam. In verse 5, this has been said in verse 5. This Atma alone is a friend of itself, himself, herself. Body mind sense complex is a friend of himself, herself. This body mind sense complex is a enemy of himself, herself. Tatra kim lakshanaha atmana bandhuhu, kim lakshanaha va atmanaha ripuhu. Well, under what condition the same body mind sense complex becomes a friend, or under what conditions the same body mind sense complex becomes an enemy? That is what is being told by Bhagavan in verse number 6. That is how Bhashyakara introduced verse 6. So he is connecting actually verse 5 and verse 6 well should be read along together, because verse 5 Bhagavan said that Atma eva atmanah bandhuhu, Atma eva atmanah ripuhu. And what Atma I have already told you, the physical body, mind, sense complex is called Atma here. And so then the doubt arises, one and the same thing can become, how can it be a friend or an enemy? Because they are both opposite. One can be enemy, another can be a friend. But one and the same thing can be a friend, and one and that same thing become an enemy. Then Bhashyakara says, yes, that's possible. And that has been told by Bhagavan himself. Kim Lakshana, under certain condition, the physical body mind sense complex becomes friend. And under different conditions, well, they become enemy. So, well, this disciplined, we have already seen this, disciplined this body mind sense complex becomes friendly. And they are not disciplined. If we do not have a self-mastery, etc., then they become burden or an enemy. So let's see the bhashyam now. Of the verse 6. Bandhuhu atma atmanaha tasya. That is from the verse. And Bhashyakara rearranges that. Tasya atmanaha atma bandhu. So rearranging. Tasya atmanaha saha atma bandhuhu. Tasya, for that, tasya atmanaha, for that individual, saha atma, for that individual, saha atma bandhuhu. Well, for that individual, for that individual, this body mind sense complex is a bandhuhu, is a friend under one condition. What condition? That condition has been told later by Bhagavan, and then Bhashyakara explains it also. Yena Atmana Atma eva jita. Well, Bhashyakara explains Atma Karyakarana Sangataha Yena Vashikritaha Jitendriya. So Atma means Karyakarana Sangataha. Well, so physical body, subtle body, well, that complex, Yena Vashikritaha, mastered, integrated, etc., or refined. Well, for if physical body, mind, sense complex is refined, then they are no more burden. Then they are friendly to oneself, to that individual, himself or herself. And so Jitendriya means one who has who is a master of these instruments. 14 instruments, you can say. But why 14? Because Jita Indriya. Indriya means an instrument here, organs. So 5 sense organs, 5 organ of action, and mind also I take it as a 4. This ahankara and then chittam and manaha and buddhi. That's how it becomes. The 14 total. So Jitendriya means, well, one who is master of these 14 instruments. So karyam means a physical body, karanam means a subtle body. Yena vashikrita. For such a person who has that self-mastery and who is master of these 14 instruments, well, the same, this physical, the physical body, mind, sense complex becomes a friend to that person. Anatmanah tu, ajitatmanah tu, shatrute, shatrubhave vartet, atma eva shatruvat, anatmanah. Tu means we call it as a vailakshanya dyotanarth. Means definitely on the other hand. Tu means on the other hand. If you want to discuss something which is opposite, well, then you use the word tu. Tu means parantu. On the other hand, however, like that. Anatmanah. So Bhashyakara says ajitatmanah. So this is word atma is there, right? The opposite of that word atma is anatma. So any word which begins with a vowel and you want to make an opposite of that, you will have to add an instead of a. For jnanam, ajnana, not anajnana. Because jnanam word begins with jna, right? Does not begin with the vowel. But word atma begins with the vowel. And so if you want to make opposite of that word in meaning, well, you will have to add an. So anatma. And so if you just separate them, then basically it becomes here, and you basically, this anatma is also is a samasa, na atma anatma, etc. And therefore here Bhashyakara says this is a madhyam padalopi samasa. So anatma means basically ajitatma. So word jita has been inserted in between. There is a samasa, a type of a variety of a samasa is called madhyama padalopi samasa. They always give an example of a shaka parthiva. Parthiva means a king. Shaka means a vegetable. So shaka parthiva means a vegetable king. But actually it is not, it doesn't make much sense. Vegetable king we of course use in a market. Suppose somebody has a huge business of vegetables, etc. Well, we say he's a vegetable king in terms of a growing or in terms of a selling, etc. Whatever. But here it doesn't make sense. So shaka parthivaha is a samasa. It's a madhyama padalopi samasa. You insert one more word in between shaka and parthiva. And that is a shaka priya parthiva. So shaka priya parthiva, shaka parthiva. When you make a samasa, you take out that madhyama pada. That word you relied it. When you do a vigraha, you add that shaka priyaha parthiva. One who loves vegetable in food, etc. Anyway, so this is also anatma, right? Anatma is samasa only. But then when you insert in between word jita, ajitaha atma. One who has basically anatma means ajita. Anatma means ajita. So anatmanah means ajitatmanah, for the one basically who is not mastered, one's own instruments, one who has not refined one's instruments, one who is under the one whose instruments are under the grip of likes and dislikes. Well, for them, well, tu shatrutve shatrubhave varteta atma eva. So then, well, if they are not mastered, then this physical body mind sense complex, well, they behave like an enemy. So Bhagavan says shatruvat, well, like an external enemy, well, who is inimical to me, harmful to me. Same way, this physical body mind sense complex, which is not under my control, which are not refined, which are under the control of ragadvesha, etc. Well, they behave like a external enemy. Shatruvata means the external enemy. Vata means always an example. What means like. Then it says yatha. No, this thing is very common actually. Like when we say our vehicle is a friend to me or enemy to me. Well, depends. We can say if it is in a good condition, if vehicle is in a good condition, definitely it is friendly. And if it is not in a good condition, well, then the same vehicle is a enemy to me, burden to me. Same way. Anyway, now after that, Bhashyakara says yatha. So if you read in the Bhashyam, tatha anatma shatru atmanaha apakari, etc. Instead of a tatha, you replace it with yatha. And anatma, you can put it, you can remove that or put it in a bracket. Yatha shatruhu atmanaha apakari tatha atma atmanaha apakare varteta ityartha. What it says, yatha shatruhu atmanaha apakari. Just as a external enemy, atmanaha apakari, just an external enemy, is harmful to me, atmanaha apakari. An external enemy is harmful to this karyakarana sanghata. Tatha, in the same way, atma atmanaha apakare varteta. Same way, this physical body mind sense complex is a harmful, well, basically to oneself. Atmanaha means to oneself. When? At the time of nididhyasana, right? If mind is not refined, it's going to create problem. It's going to create problem. There is no samatvam, etc. We discussed. If there is no samatvam in your mind, and if you are very violent while transacting in the world, a lot of reactions, etc., anxiety, etc., is there. Well, and then you sit in a meditation while those impressions are there of those experiences where you behaved in a violent manner, where you behaved with a lot of reactions. Those things are registered, and now you are sitting in a meditation. That mind is not available for doing Atma Dhyanam. So it is Atmanaha apakare varte. So definitely, and the physical body also. When sometimes it happens that when you are active, you may have some pain in the back or in the knees or anywhere. And if you are active and moving around, your attention does not go to that pain, etc. Then you don't feel. But as you sit and try to do meditate, and you suddenly remember all these things. And therefore, this Karyakarana Sanghata itself becomes an enemy to the oneself if they are not refined. So, tatha atma atmanaha apakare varteta, well, they become harmful person. This is Bhashyam of a verse number 6. Let's see the Bhashyam of verse number 7 also. Verse number 7 is Jitatmanaha prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna sukha dukheshu tatha manapamanayoho. So Bhagavan talks about, general disciplines, and he adds few things in that. Because the success of nididhyasanam depends upon this samatva. And he talks about verse number 7, 8, and 9, samatvam, the equanimity towards three things. As I told you also, the equanimity towards various situations has been talked in the verse number 7. Equanimity towards objects in verse number 8, and equanimity towards the people. He talks about in verse number 9. So he is giving a lot of importance to samatvam, because the samatvam and uh, the samatvam and the success of nididhyasanam has a direct relationship. Samatvam in the mind, and this nididhyasanam has a direct relationship. And especially what kind of a nididhyasanam, I have already told to you, samadhi abhyasa. There's a brahma abhyasa. Also, they call it as a nididhyasanam. Vidyaranya also quotes this verse, but I think it is in a Yoga Vasishta, I think, so far as my knowledge goes. Tat chintanam, tat kathanam, anyonyam, tat prabodhanam, etadeka partvam cha brahma abhyasam vidurbuddha. So there, well, it has been told that nididhyasanam of it's a one type of nididhyasanam is called brahma abhyasam. Tat chintanam, well, you contemplate upon what you have written, you read what you have written, so your notes, or you write notes, or you discuss, or you teach. All this also nididhyasana. But we don't talk about this kind of a nididhyasana here. The another type of nididhyasana is samadhi abhyasana. In a traditional form of nididhyasana, Bhagavan talks about. Why? How can you say that? Well, from verse number 10, he's going to talk about that, how to sit and etc. and all these things. He's going to talk about that. So this is a samadhi abhyasa in which you, it's a traditional form of nididhyasana in which you sit at one place, etc., in a certain posture and everything. So, well, such a type of nididhyasanam, success of such a type of nididhyasanam depends upon the samatva, basically, of your mind. And it's actually this samatvam, we can also call it as a sadhan chatusha sampatti. In that also, especially shamadhi shatka sampatti is samatvam. Shamadhi shatka sampatti, well, I don't want to discuss because you know all this. So basically, this verse number 7 talks about a samatvam towards various situations. Let's see the bhashya. Jitatmanaha karyakarnadi sangataha atma jitaha yena saha jitatma tasya jitatmana. So jitatma is a samasa, jita and atma. So Bhashyakara explains it's a bahuri samasa. Jitaha atma yena saha. Atma karyakarnadi sangataha. And here, if you just compare with the previous verse bhashyam, there Bhashyakara says Atma means Karya Karana Sangata. Here, Atma means Karya Karanadi Sangata. Karya, physical body. Karanam means subtle body. Adi. Adi means what? So basically, we have to now take it a little differently. We have to justify what Bhashyakara says. So when you say Karya Karana Sangata, then Karyam means a physical body. Karanam means a subtle body. Then it is fine in verse number 7. Here, Karya, Karana, Adi means etc. So, Karyam means physical body. Karanam means not entire subtle body. Karanam means sense organs, an organ of action. And Adi means prana that we have to take. Why? But then why are you separating prana from the Karanam? Because prana is not Karanam. That's how. How will you say prana is not Karanam? Prana is not an instrument? No, prana is not an instrument. Basically, prana comes under a maintenance system, and Karana means Karana is an instrument. Instrument for what? Instrument for transaction in the world. So basically, Karanam in prana does not have a role of a direct role in transaction. Prana has a role of maintenance, basically. And therefore, we should not include in Karanam. Karanam is an instrument for transaction. There it should not be included, pranas. And this has been discussed in a Brahma Sutra 2, 4, 11, and 12. There it has been discussed by Vyasacharya. And Vyasacharya has clearly analyzed this thing and said this Panch Prana do not come under transacting system, but it is a maintenance system. So here Karyam, physical body, Karanam, sense organs and organ of action, and Adi, Panchapranas. Sangata, assembly. which is called Atma here. So Jitatma means Atma means this. And Jitaha, well, Jitaha means one who has that mastery, refinement, etc. of these instruments. Tasya Jitatmana. Jitatmana is the sixth case of Jitatma. Okay. Prashantasya, well, if you have that kind of a refinement of the instruments, the automatic consequence will be what? Prashantasya. Bhashyakara says, Prasanna Antakaranasya Satah Sanyasinaha, etc. Then we'll see later. So Prashantasya means Prasanna Antakaranasya, whose Antakarana is Prasanna. Prasanna means what? Freedom from stress. This basically mental calmness due to self-mastery, due to refinement, due to a control over this shatrus, basically ragadvesha, etc. So prasannantakarnasya satah, being so, well, definitely, because since he has a self-mastery, well, definitely his mind has enjoying now calmness. Being so, now because he is doing a meditation. So satah sanyasinaha, well, such a what are the sanyasinaha, well, who are doing this samadhi abhyasa nididhyasanam. Why you are translating sannyasi as doing nididhyasana? That Bhashyakara has already told in verse number 4. You just see that. And Bhagavan also told, Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi Yoga Ruda. So, sannyasi who are Yoga Ruda. Yoga Aruda, Dhyana Yoga Aruda, who are candidates for Dhyana Yoga. We have already done that. And so, here, Bhashyakara adds it, sannyasi. So, and for such a people who are enjoying mental calmness, etc., and who are doing this nididhyasanam, well, samadhi abhyasa nididhyasanam, for them, Paramatma Samahita. Paramatma Samahita means Sakshat Atma Bhavena Paramatma Vartate. Well, they know this Paramatma, the Brahman, as oneself. Aparokshataya Siddha. That we have seen already, that consciousness is oneself. It's not a consciousness, is a matter of, Paramatma is not a matter of an experience, etc., in a particular state or in meditation, etc. You are experiencing already, but you are orienting yourself towards assimilation, I'm assimilating towards this. Anyway, so Sakshal Atma Bhavena Vartate Ityartha. Anyway, then it says, Kincha Shitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu Tha Mane Apamane Cha Manapamanayoho Puja Paribhavayoho Samaha Bhavet. We have to add because this sentence is incomplete. So, as such a person who is this wise person, while he is Samaha, he is unaffected in various situations. I told you, Samatvam towards various situation has been talked about. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu, and heat and cold, Sukham, favorable situation, Dukkham, unfavorable situation, Mana Apamanam, honor, dishonor, etc. Is Samaha Bhavet, he is unaffected. Naturally, he is unaffected towards this. Anyway. And now, verse number 8, Bhashyam, we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.